Hello, I'm Henry and we're here to English. We give you the real news from Ukrainian perspective. Please help us defeat Russia by watching this episode. Please comment, subscribe to our channel. While watching it, it really helps us to make Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Welcome to the news, please. Watch in the episode. Trump and Putin had a phone conversation. What are the results? Russia's failed Yas missile launch. Unrest in Hungary. The nation is against Orban's policy. The world was always quite a divided place, to say the least, but two types of people always were the largest ones: optimists and pessimists. Trump called Putin. Yes, they talked. Now back to reality. Here is what Donald Trump said about what happened.
Well, I want to thank everybody. We just spent 2.5 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and I think some progress has been made. It's a terrible situation going on over there. 5,000 young people every single week are being killed. So hopefully we did something. We also spoke to the heads of most of the European nations, and we're trying to get that whole thing wrapped up.
So it looks like to me President Trump is quite scarce on details and does not disclose many things. Well, maybe it's a secret. Maybe we don't have to know about it yet. Maybe we will learn it later. Maybe.
This is what I told you, what President Trump told me. I understand that they discussed it with Putin, with the Russian side, that in a bilateral format there can be an appropriate memorandum, which can then lead to a roadmap that in its place leads to the end of the war, that is, to a peace agreement. A memorandum that will be supported by all or both countries, in which there is a ceasefire.
Well, don't get me wrong, no one wants peace more than Ukraine, as we did not start the war, as simple as that. We are ready to talk, ready to memorandum. Just one thing more here. It was Putin who said he wants to meet Zelensky in person and then hides behind Donald Trump. When Zelensky accepts the challenge. But then again, let's do the memorandum and the roadmap to peace and see what happens. President Donald Trump stated he is ready to step back and just walk away from the Ukraine-Russian peace negotiation process if he sees no meaningful progress. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, according to Trump, phone conversation with Putin, I quote, went extremely well. Well, imagine that. And they even talked about the First Lady of the United States. Sounds quite friendly, right? During phone conversation, maybe, yes. But yesterday we in Ukraine had an almost 9-hour-long air raid alert, so we do not see any intention of Russia to end the war.
Just completed my 2-hour call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. I believe it went very well. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. The conditions for that will be negotiated between the two parties, as it can only be, because they know details of a negotiation that nobody else would be aware of. The tone and spirit of the conversation were excellent. Donald Trump, President of the United States, on Truth Social.
When asked if he had requested a face-to-face meeting with Putin, Trump said, I confirm it, of course I did, we discussed it. He also added that he believes Putin is interested in peace. President Trump also announced he does not plan to impose new sanctions on Russia, arguing that doing so would only, I quote, worsen the situation. So Putin's cruelty is now the reason for us to give up on our lives and surrender, maybe? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky firmly rejects Russian dictator's Vladimir Putin demand for Ukraine to withdraw troops from 4 partially occupied regions after the Trump-Putin phone call. President Zelensky called it a clear sign that Russia does not want peace. It is our land. We will not withdraw from our territory. If they demand something they know we'll never accept, it means they don't want peace. Zelensky said during a press conference in Kiev on May 19th. We all are used to Trump's signature move of sorts, promise something then just cancel it right away. Putin seems to have a similar style. One moment he's calling for peace, the next he's bragging in his own movie about having all the resources to win. And then on May 19th, Russia decides to launch the RS-24 Yars intercontinental missile. Decided but didn't manage to, or maybe just changed their mind, who knows. Ukraine's intelligence warned back on May 18th, there's a launch coming. They're trying to scare Ukraine, Europe also, and NATO. The launch was supposed to happen from the Sverdlovsk region where the 433rd Missile Regiment is based. Not a usual place for such launches. Usually Yars missiles are tested at the Plesetsk Cosmodrome. According to the Defense Express, if the launch had taken place from the Sverdlovsk region, well, then Russians could have seen the launch, and there would likely have been photos and at least some videos. Siberia and the Far East might have seen it too, but nothing. Complete absence of evidence. Maybe they missed it. According to the Defense Express, the launch didn't happen at all. Something probably went wrong again. This isn't the first time, you know. Back in 2023, Yars missiles missed their targets twice. And the Oreshnik missile, lots of threats, but no actual launches. So it seems the only trajectory Russian missiles confidentially follow is a course towards yet another embarrassment. Today I want to give you something really exclusive. The footage that was filmed by the drone when me personally and my filming crew was working on the front line. Nobody has ever seen that before. Some might call this video controversial. I call it war. Some might call it cruel. I call it war. It is a war we did not start, by the way. We witnessed testing a new Vampire drone on the front lines and filming the whole process. Russians call this drone Baba Yaga, a boogeyman in English. And here is why. These are Russian trenches. Well, what's left of it. Our drone Baba Yaga has hunted the enemy down. We know he's down there. Behind those burnt logs, we let him know that we see him. Russian soldier crawls out of his hideaway. There is no more reason to hide. No reason and no chance to. Russian is crawling away. Then he stops, playing dead or too tired to move. Baba Yaga drone discharges a payload, hand grenade. The Russian soldier hears the sound of a grenade pin flying off. This saves his life. In pain, wounded twice, Russian begs for mercy. And we let him go. Some might ask, why would Ukrainians let him go? An enemy, a Russian that invaded their land? After Bucha, after Sumy, why was the Russian left alive? Well, surely they could have sent another drone with another hand grenade in it and finish him off. But they didn't. Maybe because we're not like them. He is wounded and is no longer a threat. Maybe it is the case, and maybe it is not the case. And they were just low on ammo, or our drones were too far away. Maybe. I'll leave it up to you to discuss it in the comments below and share this episode worldwide.
And a quick reminder. Exactly on this day, the last Ukrainian fighter at the Azovstal plant left the underground shelter. Russians completely took control of the city and later did to it what Russians do best, burned it to the ground. We remember this day, and we are sure one day the Ukrainian flag returns to Mariupol.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
When it comes to Ukrainians, we can tell you a lot more. For example, something new is about to hit the front lines. Wasps. No, not exactly the ones from Black Mirror episode, the kind that flies into people and then explodes in them. Well, sort of. We're talking about the Vespa 15, a Ukrainian-made unmanned aerial system, Controlled via fiber optic cable, these drones can reach targets tens of kilometers away while carrying a serious payload. Their key advantage? They're completely immune to radio interference. Unlike traditional drones, they don't transmit signals at all through the air or emit radio waves, making them absolutely invisible to radio civilians and impossible to jam with electronic warfare systems. The explosive sting of the Ukrainian Wasp can take out not just enemy troops, but also armored vehicles, transport, field fortifications, and more. The system includes drone variants for different missions, both day and night. Ukrainian defenders have begun equipping Mavic drones with 6 VOG grenades instead of just 2, as they did previously. A video of this drone was shared on social platform X by Canadian OSINT investigator Grandpa Roy II, who monitors the Russian-Ukrainian warfare, particularly the use of UAVs, electronic warfare systems and munitions. Mavic drones pioneered the development of light bombing drones in Ukraine and have become a deadly anti-personnel weapon system. Increasingly, FPV drones with higher payload capacity are being configured as bombers. Here, a Ukrainian FPV carries 6 VOG grenades compared to the Mavic's limit of just 2. He wrote, sharing footage of the drone carrying 6 grenades indeed. He also shared a video showing a Russian soldier attaching 2 VOG bombs to a Mavic drone. The expert notes the VMG fuse has been modified so that when the nose cone is twisted, the munition arms itself. This is poor practice, so often a 3D printed fuse is used instead with the safety pin pulled at launch. Investigative analysts also point out that the Ukrainian bomber drone carries 6 VOG-type grenades with 3D printed tail fins. The armed forces of Ukraine will now be deploying the Krampus, a mobile flamethrower assault system developed in Ukraine. This deadly machine is equipped with 2 silent electric motors and a tracked chassis, giving it high mobility in difficult terrain and making it suitable for all weather conditions. It is controlled via channels protected from electronic warfare interference. Its battery capacity allows for several hours of autonomous operation, enabling it to remain combat-ready for extended periods of time. Krampus is outfitted with surveillance cameras and a combat module armed with RPG-16 rocket infantry flamethrowers. These are capable of effectively destroying enemy personnel, fortifications, and lightly armored vehicles. The RPG-16 is a Ukrainian-made rocket infantry flamethrower that, upon detonation, disperses an aerosol cloud with a diameter of about 7 to 8 meters. The cloud ignites with 0.2 seconds, creating a fiery blast dome with temperatures reaching up to 2,500 on Celsius and generating intense overpressure. A single shot from the RPG-16 has the power equivalent to a 122mm artillery shell and includes a fragmentation effect to increase its lethality. Finland will supply Ukraine with more ammunition purchased using funds from frozen Russian assets. Music to my ears. This was announced by the Finnish Ministry of Defense on Monday, May 19th.
Finland has made an agreement with the European Commission to supply Ukraine with heavy ammunition. The ammunition will be procured from Finnish suppliers, and the procurement will be funded with proceeds from frozen Russian assets, which will be channeled through the European Peace Facility, EPF. The agreement is valued at 90 million euros. From the Finnish Ministry of Defense publication,
Finland's Minister of Defense Antti Häkkänen stated that this decision is strategic on all levels.
Finland's support for Ukraine is unwavering and strong, even in other respects. This new package, alongside our national 660 million euros support program, will forge closer links between the Finnish industry and Finland's support for Ukraine. This is a great example of the Finnish defense industry's abilities, and it shows that our investments into ammunition production capacity are paying off. Antti Häkkänen, Minister of Defense of Finland.
Specific details regarding the content, methods, or timing of the deliveries remain classified for security reasons, obviously. However, Helsinki has made it very clear this will not be the last such step. And back to Hungary. The country yet again does not agree with the policies of Viktor Orban and takes the protest to the streets this time. Learn more in the report.
Thousands gathered in central Budapest to protest. Hungarians rallied in front of the parliament building. The reason for the demonstration was a new draft law introduced by the ruling Fidesz party, led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The proposed legislation would place restrictions on foreign funding of non-profit organizations and independent media. Orban's initiative is being widely compared to Russia's foreign agents law, a tool used by dictator Vladimir Putin to silence dissent. At the same time, many Hungarians see this bill as a sign of the government's growing fear and vulnerability. That's why they say they'll continue to take to the streets.
It feels like they're acting out of desperation, and I don't think that's a good sign. Their desperation could actually give us hope if it weren't for the fact that they're a political cult clinging to power at any cost. That's the most dangerous situation. When such a ruthless political force is cornered, it's obvious they have no intention of giving up power. And although I have a vivid imagination, I simply can't picture Viktor Orban handing over power voluntarily.
Because of the government's policies, in particular, those of the ruling Fidesz party under Orban, Hungary has already lost access to 18 billion euros from European Union funds. The European Commission froze the funds due to systematic violations of the rule of law and democratic standards. And with Orban's latest moves, especially the bill targeting foreign funding of independent media and civil society groups, Hungary could lose even more EU money. In a comment to Politico, EU Commissioner for Democracy and Rule of Law, Michael McGrath, voiced serious concerns about the state of democracy in Hungary.
The overarching and clear message from civil society and from the media was that they feel restricted. They feel the cold wind coming at them when they go about their day-to-day work, and that's not good. That's not healthy for democracy. Rule of law is a fundamental part of EU membership. It's not an optional extra, and it must be respected by all member states. And the situation in Hungary is just not acceptable. Michael McGrath, EU Commissioner for Democracy, Justice, Rule of Law, and Consumer Protection, in the commentary to Politico. I think the EU has tools to influence Orban, and it's time to finally use them. Everyone's been waiting too long because this situation can't go on forever.
Still, the threat of EU sanctions seems to have little impact on Prime Minister Orban. He continues his attacks on the EU and on Ukraine. Speaking at a Fidesz party event in Budapest, Orban called Ukraine a bankrupt state, incapable of functioning without constant financial support from abroad. According to him, Kiev is desperate to join the EU just to access European taxpayers' money, and Budapest will do everything it can to block that.
Today, Ukraine's EU membership is the biggest threat. Ukrainians don't care if they bring war into the EU, destroy European farmers, or turn us into a corridor for the mafia. But we Hungarians care.
Although Viktor Orban has been in power for 15 years, his support among the population is declining year by year. A new opposition party, Respect and Freedom, led by Péter Magyar, is gaining traction. Unlike Orban, Magyar openly calls Putin an aggressor. He has delivered humanitarian aid to Ukraine and met personally with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to a poll conducted by Magyar's party, 60% of Hungarians support Ukraine's accession to the EU.
The last European Parliament elections were the worst in years for Orban's party. Hungary's electoral landscape is shifting, and parliamentary elections are approaching, possibly even early ones. So it's entirely possible the political situation in Hungary could change. Things aren't as hopeless as they might seem.
Hungary's parliamentary elections are scheduled for April 2026. The ruling party appears increasingly anxious about the potential outcome. According to Reuters, a representative of Prime Minister Orban's office approached the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump, requesting compromising information to use against the opposition. However, Reuters notes that Washington declined to assist. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
Well, that seems to be it for today. Thank you so very much for watching. Your comment matters. Your share is much appreciated. Your subscription helps Ukraine to win. It was News Pulse. Stay tuned for more and goodbye. See you.